Alright everyone, one of the things that's been vexing me about the Mercury 9 are these power cables. How am I going to take care of these power cables? Because two yellow and green wires coming off the side of the ship just doesn't look right. That needs to be masked and painted. I'm not worried about that. Being honest, I'm not. After some of the painting I've been doing lately, that's easy. Then I remembered there's such a thing called braided wire loom. And I went looking on eBay and I found this stuff. Okay, it's copper wire loom that's been plated. Okay, both those power cables fit in there perfectly. So I'm going to be using this as the power cable, and I think it'll look really nice on this model. Okay, so I've got my last hurdle solved. All I got to do now is get those spotlights on there and wired in. I can start mounting the bigger things up there. I got to fix the Sea King too. The helicopter, because it broke. It needs a little bit of touch-up painting, and I'm not real happy with it. Okay, there it is right there. It's not horrible. It plays the part, but you can see the rotor blades need some work. I get those fixed, and I get the tail rotor back on it. It'll do a passable job, I think. Get its decals on it. Yes, it has decals. Okay, I'll be ready. The C-130, she's done. There she is right there. She just needs her fibers routed through her and then glued down, and I can mount her on the base and have, when I power this Mercury 9 up, have those lights blinking and flashing. That will make me happy, because that's like a milestone done. Okay, but I'm not going to do any of that until the spotlights are on there, and they got another black block coat tonight, so let's see how they block the light in a minute, because if they're not blocking the light, I gotta do it again. I'll be back in a bit. Right, today's task, if I have time to do it, is to get the fiber optics threaded back in the C-130. Any time left over, I'm going to work on these little spotlights that are over here. Make sure they're light blocked. If they're light blocked, then I can work on getting them installed on the base. That's almost all the electronics are left. After these two spotlights, I just have attaching the Mercury 9 herself, electronic-wise. That's probably going to be one of the last things I do, because that thing's big, and I'm still not 100% certain how I'm going to attach it to the base. I'm thinking I'm going to do some pinning, because I don't want it coming off once it's on there. So anyhow, let me get after this. I've got 3 pieces of fiber. I have to go through 3 different holes, and I have to do a 90-degree bend in some of those holes. So this is going to be fun. I'll be back and show you what happens. Well, threading the fiber optics appeared to be much easier than I thought. Now I got to get them to glue in and set and cure. I also poked an extra hole in the top of that somehow. I'm not going to worry about it. I'll fill that hole in with some micro crystal clear, and that's how I'm going to glue these fibers down, because I know that stuff won't hurt the fibers at all. Then I got to touch up some paint, cut the fibers. Well, I got to touch up some paint. I also need to cut the fibers to shape, let this cure before I do any of that, and then I can mount this on the board, and she will be ready to go. See, there's some of the paint I need to touch up. Alright, well, happy thought today. This took less than 5 minutes. Really happy with that, because now I have time to work on something else. Let me get the glue in there and let the glue cure up and fill all these holes and stuff with glue. That spot up there worries me a lot, because it's going to take some work to get that set up right. I'll be back in a bit. Alright everyone, I don't know if you can see it, but there's a thin layer of microsol crystal clear right there to help fix that hole. I got a good layer of it there holding the fibers in, and they're clamped. I'm sure these clamps are going to stick to the wings a little bit, but I'll fix that. Should have put a little bit of oil on those clamps, but I didn't. But anyhow, oil or some sort of release. Anyhow, I got the fibers on this thing. I'm just going to let her sit. In an hour or two, I can take those clamps off. Most likely when I get home from work, because I'm about to go to work. Up next, I'm going to check those spotlights and make sure I got the light leak done on them. If I do, I'm probably going to stop working on this and work on the Honda over here. And I got some electrical connectors I want to take a good hard look at, and try to figure out where the spark plugs actually are on this Honda, and put some spark plugs in the engine. I have time today also to oil streak this thing up. Someone's calling. Gotta go. Well, I got my light leaks fixed. This thing's lighting up pretty steady. I'm going to flip the camera upside down to see it because I've got one hand to work with. If I want it to stay lit, well, it's staying lit. I think this little spotlight looks perfect. To the naked eye, it's just beautiful. Okay, the way it looks. And all the light leaks are gone. So I got 1 out of 2 done. I'm going to go check the other one. This is happiness because this is some of the last electronics I have to deal with. Don't have much more. Here's the other spotlight lit up. It has a teeny bit of light leak on the bottom side of it. And that's because that's resin and the paint doesn't want to stick to the resin. That's the actual LED itself. It's not enough that I'm going to be concerned about it because you could just say there's a light seal at the back of the spotlight that leaks. I've been behind a couple of big spotlights and there is a little light leak behind them at times. I like how this looks. So I've got both my spotlights done. They're ready to be installed. I got the oil tank done up here. It's ready to be installed. C130 is almost ready to be installed. So, yeah, I'm about to start putting everything together on that base. I messed up the Sea King yesterday doing some spray paint on it, but I'll get that fixed up. That's minor. I also saw some things I didn't like in that Sea King. I'm debating on redoing it or not. We will see if time permits. Yeah, time permits. That's the big one. I'll be back later. Hey everyone, I've mounted the tank up on the base of this. I did it using some good old Aves epoxy sculpt. It's an epoxy putty. When it cures, it is epoxy. You can use it to glue things with. And that's what I did. I mixed up a big wad of it, put it around the bottom of that cardboard tube, and mashed it down on there. I was pretty careful to make sure none came out. Then I took some sculpting tools and fixed the bead that came out and just carved it off. In about 4 hours, that tank will not move. Then I can put the spotlights on, get the C130 in, and all my lighting on the all my wiring's done. I'm going to poke 2 wires through here for the Mercury 9 itself, so that we can. I don't have anything to do with the bottom. But I have to be really careful with those wires because there's not a lot of room in this for wiring extra wires. Okay. Not a lot of room at all in this thing for extra wires. I'm trying to decide what to do with this too, because it looks like those are windows. Could they be windows? No, they're not windows, and I'm not going to make them windows. But anyhow, this needs some paint, that needs some paint. There's a few other things that need paint. I can do that. The paint on this is easy to accomplish. We're progressing. As soon as I get the bottom sealed up, I can put the fence on here when I'm not tipping it around anymore. Concentrating on getting the Mercury 9 mounted. Nellie was right. That H looks weak. I'm going to have to fix that H. Although, I do intend to take this little guy right here when I get him fixed and park him right on top of that H anyhow. With him parked on top of that H, you're really not going to see it. And if I park him right, you definitely won't see it. Okay? And he's going to get mounted down on the base, so he's not moving. So there you go. You won't really see that H. Just for fun, let me do this real quick, because this is one of my favorite things. Oh, shouldn't go bumping things. Let's... take a look at that. That's what that's going to look like. Okay. And this is what things are going to look like. Let me kill this. I can see things a little bit better that way. Street lights make a good effect. I think that Sea King sitting right there, whatever that is going to look really good. Sea Stallion, there we go. That's not a Sea King. It's way too big. I guess I could actually look it up and see what it is. Super Sea Stallion, that's what that is. Way too big to be anything else. Okay, because it's almost the same size as the C-130. That's a huge helicopter. But anyhow, I think this thing's going to look really good when it's done. It's really close. I can put the fence on it probably tomorrow. That will be a good thing. I love the tonal variation here on the runway and the roadways. I think I've got that lined up really well. I love how the street lights illuminate this thing. It's almost perfect. The spotlight should illuminate the Mercury 9 really well. Anyhow, I'm just talking. You guys can see it all. I'm going to go ahead and go and get some dinner, because I really don't want to touch this until that's set up. I'll be back in a little while. I got the first spotlight installed. I'm going to have to do a little bit of work with this, because I'm not 100% satisfied with how this is on there, but I don't think I can move it. The water tank is on there really well. That's on there with some super glue. The wires are going under the base just as I'd wanted. Yep, and a little bit of maneuvering, I can get them down the way I want them. They're smoothing out really well. Okay, now to install the spotlight on that tower. That's going to be the tricky one, I think. And then I got to repair the paint back here. In fact, I'm thinking I should try to repair that paint before I install that spotlight, because those wires are going to run right past it, and I want those wires to stay black and that to be a different color. So I'll be back in a little bit. All right, everyone, I'm just getting impatient to see it done. I've got the spotlights in place now. That one's wired into my power supply. You can see the wires over there. It's not wired into the main supply. I just wanted to see what that spotlight looks like. Now I think it looks good. Now I can't wait to see this one lit up too. Okay? I think it's going to add an eerie presence to this thing sitting on its launch pad. I put the Sea Stallion here. I wanted to see, and a couple of the trucks, just to see what's going on. Okay? But anyhow, just wanted to see what it looked like. That building's not mounted either. I'm still trying to figure out if I want to try to light it or not. I don't think so. There's enough light in here. This doesn't need to be lit or have any lights. Okay? There's enough light around it. It definitely doesn't need to be. But anyhow, I'm liking how things are going. I really like the spotlight. I think it looks good. The radar tower. This light blinks sometimes and doesn't. I wish I knew what the cause of that was. And this radar tower here, it's not fastened down yet either. It will be soon. Okay? But anyhow, I'm liking how this is going to turn out. It's going to be really good. I'll be back in a little while.